Sever! Be reduced to cinders.
So Changli is the new insane combo wombo damage dealer, and there's a lot of things that surprise me about her. So today I'm gonna be going over how to build Changli and play her so that you can beat some of the hardest content in the game. Now, let's start with the most important part of the video, how to maximize Changli's potential and how do her abilities work. I'll be using the Molten Rift 5 set to showcase her damage and abilities, while her Active Echo is going to be the Inferno Rider, but keep in mind, I'll cover all of her builds later in the video. Also, I ended up getting decent stat rolls, and I managed to reach pretty high crit values. Oh, and of course, in this video, she is sequence 0. Okay, starting off with the basic attacks, it's a 4-hit combo that can be performed both on the ground and mid-air. Now, the damage is going to be negligible, however, you will want to do the 4-hit combo because afterwards, she gains a True Sight buff, which you can see here, and it will last for 12 seconds and can be maintained even when swapping in and out. What's also nice about it is that you don't need to hit the enemy to obtain True Sight. And essentially, when she has True Sight, it will enhance her next basic attack, so you have two choices. Either press attack, which will execute the conquest version, or press the jump button followed by attack button, which will be counted as charge version of True Sight. Generally speaking, the conquest version deals better damage, but the charge version is far more safer to use, since it's done in mid-air, unless you're going to keep swap canceling the conquest. But regardless of whichever you chose to do, if you hit the enemy with True Sight attack, Changli will gain 1 stack of enflamement, as you can see here. But let's back this up a little. First of all, in what other ways you can gain True Sight? Well, besides doing the 4-hit combo, you can also perform a dodge counter, which immediately starts the basic attack combo from the 3rd hit. So in other words, if you dodge the enemy and quickly tap the attack twice, she can immediately gain True Sight. On top of that, she can also gain True Sight when you trigger her intro skill, and it will usually play out in mid-air. However, she can also immediately gain True Sight after using her skill. In fact, she can unleash it twice. And as you can see, it's a really cool animation where she ends up lunging to the ground. So after that animation is done, make sure to do one basic attack or jump to consume the newly gained True Sight and perform the enhanced basic attack. Moving over, there's Forte Circuit. It's honestly pretty simple. Once you have 4 stacks of enflamement, you can then hold down the attack button to consume all the stacks and unleash a ton of AoE damage, which by the way is also treated as skill damage. Just keep in mind the animation is super long, so I recommend swapping out. Also, for the distinguished people out there, with each stack you can notice Changli losing a piece of clothing. And as I've said before, you can gain 1 stack of enflamement when using her enhanced basic attacks from True Sight or when she uses her ultimate, which actually grants her all 4 stacks. In fact, if we take a look at the ultimate, it's really just one big dumb number you can unleash on the enemies. But it does grant a buff called Fiery Feather, and basically if you trigger her Forte Circuit within 10 seconds, it will deal better damage thanks to increased attack. On top of that, both her inherent skills essentially just provide better damage boosting, with the first one providing fusion damage bonus for her enhanced attacks based on how many enflamement stacks she has, and the second one boosts ultimate and Forte Circuit's fusion damage and ignores 15% of enemies' defense. So yeah, you will not need to think about them, they just improve damage. But all in all, when it comes to her kit, you want to obtain True Sight as soon as possible by using one of the methods shown here, and then you want to unload those True Sight attacks and obtain enflamement stacks. And once you have 4 stacks, hold down the attack button to unleash it and swap out. And if we take a look at her total damage output, we can see that the skill damage takes up the majority of this pie chart because her enhanced basic attacks from True Sight and the Forte Circuit she unleashes are all treated as skill damage. Now, let's quickly talk about her rotations. If you just want to stay on the field and gain the 4 enflamement stacks as fast as possible, assuming you just triggered her intro skill, do the first True Sight attack, and then you want to activate her skill twice, each time making sure you consume the True Sight buff afterwards, and then obtain the last enflamement stack by doing a 4-hit combo, followed by a heavy attack to trigger her Forte Circuit, then ultimate, and then Forte again, and at this point, you can now swap out. While doing all of this, you can fit in the Echo whenever it's off cooldown. But when it comes to the quick swap rotation, I mean, Dude, it's basically like whenever you feel her animation is too long, just swap out and do something else with another character. And the thing is, she has quite a few long animations. Obviously, her forte attack is super long, but her conquest version of the true side is also long. The same can be said about the skill, just swap out if you need to. Anyway, let's take a look at that sweet Changli build I've heard good things about. Unless you want to build a really weird looking Changli, this is what you actually want to do. First, when it comes to weapons, no surprise, her signature is the best in slot option, and it is about 10 to 14% better than Emerald of Genesis, which you can obtain from the standard weapon banner. But when it comes to 4-star weapons, they are all pretty much going to lag behind by at least 15 to 20% when compared to Emerald of Genesis. Now, the best 4-star options would be Commando of Conviction, with each copy becoming slightly better, and then there's also Lunar Cutter. Now, the Commando sword is a bit better than Lunar Cutter, but it's like, whatever. And then there's also the Battle Pass sword Looming Gloss, which ironically is also slightly worse than Commando, due to how the passive is barely useful for Changli. But if you don't have any of these options I've just mentioned, then go with the craftable 4-star sword number 18. Or if you don't have the materials, then you should at least have the Sword of Night, which is like a budget version of Commando. Anyway, with this depressive weapon guide out of the way, let's take a look at Echoes. If you want to play her as a pure DPS, then the Molten Rift 5 set along with Inferno Rider is the way to go. But if you prefer to utilize her as a sub DPS to buff other units' damage, such as Jinchi, you can go for the Moonlit set with Heron. I'll talk about this more in the team section. But regardless of which set you're going with, the most reliable loadout, as always, is going to be the 4-3-3-1-1, with 4-cost Echo having either crit rate or crit damage main stat, and then the 3-cost Echoes can be either double fusion or fusion and attack. The difference here is very small, so more flexibility, which is nice. And then for the 1-cost Echoes, it's attack percent main stat. What else did you expect? Now, there is a special exception here, and it's mostly for those who are struggling to obtain good 3-cost Echoes for a Moonlit set. And of course, by that, I mean you can go for the 4-4-1-1-1 loadout, since there are 2 different Echoes you can use as 4-cost from the Moonlit set. Also, if you're really struggling with the Echoes, you can go for a Lingering Tunes set with Abomination, or heck, just mix and match the 2 set bonuses from any of the 3 mentioned sets. Still, let's talk about the substat priority. You will want roughly 20% energy regen from substats, but honestly, this depends on which team you're using, so just try to get at least few rolls on energy. And then there's the good old critical rate and damage to focus on, then skill damage bonus, and then attack percent or liberation damage bonus. But yeah, that's pretty much all there is to Changli's build. So for video skippers, here's an overview of her build, and also you can see the priority in leveling her abilities. Now, when it comes to team building, first thing I want to talk about is the outro skill. So whenever you trigger it with Changli, it will amplify the swapped in character's fusion damage by 20% and liberation damage by 25% for 10 seconds, or until that unit switches out. And the 2 characters who can benefit the most from this are Chixia and Encore. So if you want to, choose one of them, and then as for the last member of the team, Verena is recommended, but it can also be Genshin, Baiji, or Taochi. Still, if we go with the meta team comp of Changli, Encore, and Verena, this is essentially a very comfy quick swap team, since if you look at this footage here, all you want to do is keep swapping off from any long animations that Changli is performing into Encore, who almost always will have her skill ready, which you can also swap cancel. But when you do trigger the outro skill of Changli, then make sure to go into Encore's ultimate, and when the forte is full, use heavy attack to start charging that long animation, and swap off to either Verena or Changli. Now, one thing to keep in mind, if you do decide to use Encore or Chixia, well, you're gonna need 2 Molten Rift sets, and as someone who has spent almost 3 weeks farming just one of these, you may end up bitter from the unfair RNG. So in that case, if you do have a Moonlit set, you can give it to Changli or Encore, so one of them can become boosted by the sets and Echoes buffs. Still, what about non-fusion teammates? Well, luckily, Havoc Rover once again proves to be one of the most reliable MCs in gacha gaming, since she has great synergy with Changli. Not only can Rover utilize that big Liberation Amplify boost Changli's outro provides, but the team's rotation is also newbie-proofed. If you ever swap to Rover, all you gotta do is cast Ultimate then Dreamless for big bada bing damage, or if they're on cooldown, tap the skill at least. And if you do play with Havoc Rover, Verena is going to be the best support here, but you can also go with Tao Chi to boost Changli's skill damage. Then there's also Jinshi. Yeah, you can actually use both of the 1.1 characters together, and for this team, if you still don't have a good Molten Rift set, you can easily slap Moonlit set with Heron on Changli, who will then help Jinshi achieve big nuke damage. And in this team, you also want to first prioritize using Verena, who can help with Jinshi's stack generation, but someone else like Yuanwu can also be a great option, who can provide resistance to interruption and stacks for Jinshi. I mean, in 99% of the teams, the support slot is always gonna be taken by Verena, so just use somebody else if you cannot use her. And finally, here's a couple of free-to-play teams. Changli, Qixie, and Baiji or Taochi is one way to play the game, since Qixie is actually one of the best 4-star damage dealers in the game, so with extra Changli buffs, she thrives here. But there's also Changli, Havoc Rover, and basically any support you can put into the team, for a very nice and comfy team, just like Changli's. Now, before I share my thoughts about Changli, here's a quick recap on whether you should go for her sequences or signature weapon. Okay, so the first sequence is the solution to the problem the devs are selling here. Basically, the 10% damage increase for skill and forte is like whatever, but the resistance to interruption is definitely a great upgrade if you're having trouble with enemies interrupting Changli. Then, the second sequence is just a straight up 25% critical rate boost. You will be constantly gaining enflamement, and this actually becomes a tipping point where you can start utilizing critical damage main stat Echo with her signature weapon or any weapon that has critical damage main stat. Next, third sequence just gives a decent boost to liberation damage, while the fourth sequence gives a nice 20% attack boost for the whole team for 30 seconds when Changli's intro skill is casted. And then finally, the fifth and sixth sequences both provide significant damage upgrades, but this is whale territory we're talking about, so I don't know what else to say here. Now, overall, I would say if you only play Changli in quick swap teams, then the first sequence is not that big of a deal, but if you do want comfort with on-field Changli, it's pretty good. Still, the best stopping point would be the second sequence, because that's the first big boost in damage you can get before the final two sequences. Although, if I had to choose between her sequences or the signature weapon, I would say the weapon is better here, since you can share it with other units when doing Tower of Adversity, and someone like Dunjin will especially love this sword. All in all, I think Changli is a pretty strong unit, but I feel like she got a bit of a dirty treatment with that first sequence bait, and right now, I would also say she doesn't have that many specialized teams to help maximize her potential. But still, she is a great unit and will only become better once more fusion characters come out. But yeah, that's pretty much it for this guide. I hope you found it useful, and I'd appreciate it if you'd press the like button and subscribe to my channel. If I sounded weird today, it's because I have a fever and cold. Thanks for watching, and see you next time. Bye!